Hi there. Welcome to Bible/chat. Kevin, hello.
Hello, how are you, John?
I'm excellent.
Good.
Just so awkward. Okay. So we did an episode a while back on
Yes.
lying, on can Christians tell white lies,
Yeah, yeah.
which sparked another question that we got from someone who listens. And that question is associated with lying as well. So the question that got asked is this, and I'm going to pitch it to you, and then we can dialogue about it. The question is this: so, is lying okay when the ends sort of justify the means? Is there ever a scenario in which you can tell a lie, like for example, to protect someone's life, and that's okay to tell a lie in that case because you're doing it for right motives, your intentions are good, and so you're lying for the purpose of protection of somebody else. And the example that's always used is you're hiding Jews in Nazi Germany. The Gestapo's coming. They knock on your door. Are you hiding Jews? And you just say no, because you're lying,
Yeah.
but you're lying with the intention of protecting innocent people,
Yeah.
which obviously the intention is good.
Yeah,
So that,
yeah, for sure.
So is that type of lie okay?
Yeah, I would say no.
Okay.
Just to confirm, I said
Simple
yeah as
answer.
a way of receiving the question.
Yeah, gotcha. Gotcha.
I would say no, strictly because Colossians 3:9 says, "Put off lying."
Yeah.
Because like stop lying because you have put off the old man with its evil practices.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, before being saved, we would lie, and the Bible calls that former life an evil. That's an evil practice in our former life. So it's also evil for Christians.
Yeah.
Just to say why this is hard. It's hard because that's life and death. I mean,
Right.
that's super serious, and lying doesn't seem like it has a huge impact all the time. So I can understand why someone would think, okay, it's fine.
Yeah, the value proposition there is odd.
Yeah.
Like you tell a little little sinful lie, but you're protecting the life of a person,
Right.
which has greater value.
Right.
So it's worthwhile doing it.
Yeah, and I think I would put it even in the context of what is it, 1 Corinthians 10? No temptation is overtaking you except which is common to man, and God will make a way of escape.
Yeah.
And so it's God makes a way of escape, but it's not through sinning.
Okay.
You can't
Yeah.
sin your way out of a situation.
Yeah.
So God never has a way of escape that involves sinning our way out. So
Got it.
it's helpful to see that He's structured it that way. And what that does, when we know where we can't go, we see what else is at our disposal when
Yeah.
it comes to how to navigate in those
Situations
moments.
like that, yeah.
Super hard. For example, Rahab is held up often. I think that's one where she's lauded in the Hall of Faith
Yeah.
for quote unquote what she did.
Right.
And we see she lied.
Yeah.
She's I think she says I don't know where they went.
Yeah.
Which is totally the case. And because the next verse says, but she had hid them up on her roof.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
the text is telling you she lied. Now she's a Gentile. She's not, a member of the covenant community.
Right.
But she is faithful in the sense of she goes on to say I know God has given you this land.
Yeah.
Make me one of your people, basically.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is just to read really carefully in Hebrews 11, it doesn't applaud her for lying. It applauds her for welcoming the spies in peace. So it's different. So the Bible, the author of Hebrews knows what to pick out and what not to pick out. So that's really helpful to see. This isn't just a wholesale endorsement of Rahab in Hebrews 11.
Yeah.
Other things that are cool to think about is when we know where we can't go, we start to see what's at our disposal for how to navigate those situations.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of examples in the Bible where someone's talking to a powerful, bloodthirsty individual, and they're really, really crafty in how they're navigating that situation.
Totally.
And I would say lying is wrong. Distracting is not,
Yeah.
in the same way flares off
Yeah.
the fighter jets,
Yeah.
and you see people do that a lot. Example, the Hebrew midwives in Exodus 1, which we'll see in Care Group. The king, the Pharaoh, says, kill all the baby boys, and he tells it to the Hebrew midwives, and the Hebrew midwives choose to let them live. And when the king comes and interrogates them and said, why did you choose to let them live? The text says that they said, well, the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women. They're more vigorous, and they give birth before we get to them. and which is actually a distraction. The English says they give birth before we can get to them,
Yeah.
but the Hebrew says they give birth before we go there.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
a really subtle way of saying,
Yeah.
we just chose not
Yeah,
to go.
we chose not to show
Yeah.
up. Yeah. And the baby's already born.
Yeah. So you see that. You see in Genesis. Now, this is not something to hold up, but it's an example of the craft. When Abraham says Sarah's his sister.
Yeah.
You know, that's not held up as something great because he ought not have said that. He said that from fear.
Yeah.
But he does clarify, like, she actually is my sister.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and so he's using that data to try to distract the individual. So there's other examples, but those are biblical examples. A modern example would be like a pump fake in basketball.
Yeah.
Camouflage on a tank.
Yeah.
Stuff that's totally in bounds to do. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you can, you know, it's not wrong for you to pump fake. That motion is not out
Yeah.
of, like, a foul, you know? So
Yeah.
you can do that, and you do that intentionally thinking that person's going to be
Yeah.
thrown off.
Yeah.
So,
one of the examples that comes up sometimes is with Absalom.
yeah.
What was going on there?
Which example exactly?
Well, the one where so David's fled, right?
Yeah. Yes. Hushai.
And- yes,
Yes.
Hushai. So we have this moment where Absalom is the king, and one of David's
Yeah.
counselors
Yeah.
is essentially like a double agent
Yes.
in this situation. And then
Yes.
what does he do to get himself out of that situation?
Yeah. He basically goes in and so yeah, David is exiled from the kingdom. He sends in his spy under the guise of serving Absalom, his son, who has exerted a coup and taken over the
Seeking
kingdom.
to kill David.
Yes.
I mean, this is bloodthirsty bad guy.
And Hushai is David's man
Yeah.
in Absalom's ranks, and he goes there and he's like, "Long live the king! Long live the king!" And what's interesting is commentators would say, I think, like when we talked about this in 2 Samuel, he's saying that for David in his mind.
Yeah.
And Absalom is reinterpreting that in his mind to think like, oh, he likes me.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know? And
totally.
so he's saying things that he's letting Absalom trip himself up on in the same way you put bushes on a tank. It's like
Yeah.
people's minds are going to be like, that's,
that's
a bush, a
yeah.
moving bush.
And then they're dead.
And
Yeah.
then, and like that, you see that example. I mean, that's a really crafty one. And yeah, you just see that it's in, I forget if it's Joshua or Judges, but they literally spell it out with military maneuvers. They're like, we're going to send guys into the valley right in the open.
Yeah.
It's going to draw out the enemy forces. And we have a bunch of other people behind the mountain, and they're going to come out and flank him and kill him. You know? And it's like, that's normal. It's all inbounds to do
Yeah,
that.
totally.
And so I think it's just helpful to see, can we lie? No. But can we get crafty? Yes. And
Yeah.
back to the hiding Jews thing, you do see examples where people are really good at distracting. And they're like, come in, you know, they're like, search my house.
Yeah.
They don't answer the question.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, they're like, search my house for yourself.
You can
know?
feel free to search.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
actually is very off-putting in one sense.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, if he's going to let us in the house, there must not be anything here.
And if the guys have, you know, searched 200 houses that day,
Yeah.
they're probably like,
Yeah, we're
it's
good.
fine.
Yeah.
You know, so, or they're not. And, you know, they
You
find
get
it
caught.
and whatever, but you have gone to the grave with a clean conscience.
Yeah,
and
totally. Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
good.
So,
Yeah, that's actually, I think where a good place to go with that is that I think we sometimes forget that Christians always have the way out, right?
Yeah.
We always have the way out of every ethical dilemma because for us, death is actually gain. You know, Paul says, for me to live is Christ, for me to die is gain.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm not going to lie because that's sinful and I don't want to do that. But if they catch me in this thing and they kill me, I've actually won. So, like, either way, I win. It's a win-win for me. Like, you want to kill me? Okay, well, I'm going to heaven, so it's fine,
Yeah.
you know? So that actually gives us an out for every ethical dilemma.
For sure.
Which is super helpful.
yeah, your heart is not, because the temptation is you have to stay alive.
Yeah.
You know, but like Christians, Paul says in Acts 20 or 21, I don't consider my life on any account as dear to myself.
Yeah.
So that I may finish the mission I received from the Lord. You know, it's
Exactly.
like, oh wow. If we all adopt that mindset, play our cards try to play our cards really well. But at the same time, it's like, that might be the card we play.
Yeah.
Like, lay your life down.
And that's okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Win.
Yeah, you win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, which, again, like, it takes all those morally ambiguous things and, like, ejects them out of any ambiguity. And you're like, okay, well, now we have clarity. You know, we can move on from there.
Yeah.
Good. Well, that's super helpful. Thank you. That might spark other questions.
Yeah.
So if it does, we can always answer those.
good.
But yeah, thanks a bunch. Appreciate it. Well, I hope that's helpful for you as well. If you have any questions on this or any other topic, you can always email us at info@faithbibleoc.org. Thanks so much.